Hey guys, hi everyone, good evening. Good evening, Adil. Good evening, Pramod. Good evening, Govind. Good evening, everyone. Hello, welcome, guys. I hope I am audible as well as visible. Am I? Hello, guys. We will wait 1 or 2 minutes for other people to join and then we are going to start our session. Hello, Ankit. Hi, good evening, good evening. Good evening, everyone. So I can see only 9 people here, which is not that good of a number. So we will wait maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes and then we'll start. Good morning, Kumar. I think it should be good evening, but good evening, Kumar. Perfect. Great. Okay. So let's not waste our time. Let's start the session. I think we can wait only 1 minute. In the meantime, let's do the quick revision. So in our yesterday's class, we actually tried to implement few very important things. We tried to create a simple API, right? And whenever we talk about building out, designing an API, we simply mean that we are trying to either read the data from the API, we are trying to create the data on the API, or we are simply trying to update or delete. In these things, we already saw two of the methods, whether it was get or whether it was post. And we also understood what a dynamic routing is. So whenever we implement dynamic routing, what exactly it means, we understood that as well, right? Now, in today's class, as of now, if I try to go here and if I try to run my server, so npm run dev, we can clearly see as soon as I open this, let me try to open my Thunder client so that I can make a request on this. If I go here in the local host and let me simply say get, if I try to make a get request on this and if I simply click a send request, you can clearly see what it does is it gives me a data of all those students that exist inside this database, right? If I try to go here and pass only one argument, which is I want to simply pass a number of that ID of that student, if I simply click send, it gives me that individual student data. We already built logic for this. Then we understood that what if I simply want to create a new student inside. So in that particular case, if I pass name, let's suppose over here as Adifat, and then I will simply tell it, hey, do one thing on this, please make a post request. And this is the body that we are talking about. Let me remove the ID. And now if I send a request, we can see at the end, it has actually posted a data. So this is what we discussed in our previous session. In today's session, we are going to continue and we are going to move forward with a small topic, with a small type of a HTTP method called as post. Logic should be very simple, and let's try to understand what we are going to do. I will tell it on my app, please implement a put method. The endpoint will be same API/students like this. And on this, I will simply want you to go and implement request comma response in this method. And now I would simply want you to update the data. Now, when we say update the data, I will tell you what you need to install and download. Let's do that later on, Adil. As of now, we can clearly see that this is my data that I'm talking about. Now, when we say update, what does that mean? That means maybe I will simply ask you to find an object, maybe Jayesh, maybe Minakshi, Drishyam. And once you have found that object, then update its name, maybe, although we should not update name, we can update current class and division. Let's suppose a year has passed and you want to simply update your data related to that particular student, what its current class now is and what its division is. So it means we have to update only these two keys. These two keys. That's what we want, right? And for that, what we do is we will use put method to update any data inside the API. Now, when we talk about update, don't you think in order to update a single object, first we should be able to find, we should be able to see who that object is, which means we have to implement dynamic routing over here. So we will tell it, please pass an ID in the URL with help of which I will actually find that item, that student uniquely, and then I will update it. And then we also saw in our previous session that whatever data I have to pass, I will pass it in body, requester.body. As of now, I'm using Thunder, I'm using Postman. Later on, I will actually implement it via frontend. Right? Let's suppose I will simply tell it the student whose ID is 2, which is Minakshi. For this student, please change its current class to 13 and please update its division to B. This is what we want to do. Or for a student whose ID is 5, please go to that student and simply change its division from D to B. This is what we want to do, right? Which means I have told it that the how you are going to find and select the item, we will use ID for it, a dynamic route. And then over here, I will read the data from the request.body. So let's write logic for the same. So I will first of all go here and I will simply say let my ID is equals to, how do we read this ID, guys? What do? We simply tell it, please let me make and say request.params.id like this. So whatever, whenever a user goes to the URL and makes a request on this and writes this dynamic value, we will be able to read it and put it in ID. Then once we have found the ID, what is the logic? Logic is very simple. Go inside the array that I have, and whatever ID I have passed over there, find me that object. So let me simply go here and let me simply tell. Now let me find the old obj is equals to, in my student array, please find what you are going to simply find an item over here which will simply match what where this condition is going to be true. Item dot that item's ID is equals to ID. Now if I go here, if I try tell it simply, now after that in the response I wanted to send me that old obj. Now I have a simple question over here. Let me put triple equals, not double equals to. Okay, please understand my question. So I've defined a put request on this particular endpoint where I will pass an ID, which will be a number. And then I will simply tell it, based on whatever ID I have passed, please find me that item and put it inside old obj. Let's suppose I will pass over here 3. In that particular case, tell me what student it should reply. I mean return. Which student it should return. Come on, guys. I have passed over here 3 as an ID. So in that case, this ID over here will become 3. This ID will become 3. And based on what, wherever the item.id is equals to 3, it should return that. But if I click send over there, you can clearly see it says cannot post over here. Why am I missing something? Although it's not post, it's put. Now, if I click on send request over there, it does not give me anything. It's not returning any response over here. What is the reason? The reason is whenever we write over here anything, I told you in the previous class, even though I am writing number 3, but always remember it is going to be a string. Now, in the data that I have in the initial data, is my ID number or string? It's a number. Can we compare number with a string? Can we compare number with a string? No, we cannot. So whenever we talk about triple equals to means that left side operand and right side operand, the values are going to be same, and then their data type will also be same. So it has to be string as well as it has to be have a value same or whatever. But it means triple equal to means the data type and the value has to be same. But one is a number, another one is a string, so it cannot match. So the solution is we will use double equals to this. Double equal to means simply check the value. I don't care about the data type, check the values. So now if I go here and if I try to make a send request, we can clearly see we got Drishyam. If I simply go write 5, in that case, I will get the Dhoni, the 5th element ID. I hope this makes sense. What's the difference between double equal and triple equal? Okay. Now after that, what if I will pass a number and that ID does not exist? In this particular case, there's no response. So I will simply tell it a simple logic here. If my old obj, which we discussed in our yesterday's class, is undefined. If it is undefined, in that particular case, in the response, please send the status. What is the status we are going to send? 404, bad request. Now, if I go here, send the request, it should be not found. 404 is not found, not bad request. Let's quickly go here. Is the logic correct? Yes, old obj is equals to undefined, and in that case, make it 404. So it will give a 404. Let's wait for it. In the meantime, what next? Now we have to update the data. Now we simply want to tell it whatever inside that request I have passed in the body, update that key for this particular ID that we have. Right? Now for that, what I will do is I will simply go and use a simple logic, which is let my data is equals to, please create a variable and from my request dot body read the data. And if I simply did now response dot send data that I have, please send me this. And now if I go here, send it, we can clearly see it's taking a little bit of time, not sure why, but let it give time. Okay, let it take time. So quickly, come on, work. Let me try to save this request saved successfully. In the meantime, see, I am simply telling it, please create a variable with a request.body. So whatever I will send inside the request.body, that's what it's supposed to do. Although I have passed an ID over there which should not be there, I will simply tell it 1. Now let me send the request. We can clearly see we saw that body in the console. So we have received body. So whatever I will pass from here, I am receiving it from in the data. Now what will I do? I will simply tell now create a new object. New object, the object which you want to actually put in the data, and create an object where your old obj will be simply separated out. Then replace it with the new object that I am receiving from the request.data. What does it mean? Let me give you a simple example what it means. Allow me a second. I will open my whiteboard. Okay. Please pay attention. This is one of the very important things, especially to those students who don't know what this dot means. Okay. Over here in this code, if you look at this, I am simply telling it return me the old object. Now let's suppose that object is name is equals to Meenakshi, then comma current class is equals to whatever, whatever data we have. And then another one is division. And division is simply similarly some other data. Let's suppose division is 8, current class is 8, and name is Meenakshi. This is what we have. Now in the request.body, I have told it to update my current class. Update the current class over there from 8 to 10. So what we will do is we will simply tell it, put this key over here like this. So let these 3 keys be there, but at the end add a 4th key to it, which is current class over there is equals to 10. Now in JavaScript, if there's an object that you have created in which there are 2 keys with the same name, the later value will be taken. This will be given precedence. So we will simply tell it, whatever the old keys you have, simply keep them there. And then whatever the new data that I have, put it there. So that's what I'm doing with it. Whatever my old OBJ is, whatever its key value pairs are, all those put separate them here. This is a separate operator. Whatever the key values are, separate them here. Then whatever the key value pairs inside data, you have separate them as well. So if there's only current class will be updated. If there's division as well, at the top division was A, over here, let me suppose B. So this is the later value, B will be taken. So this is nothing but the updated value once we make a request on it. I hope this makes sense. Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Quickly. Am I clear what is new object variable does? Done. So now if I go here, let me try to tell it, please in the response, tell me what my new OBJ is. If I now go to this API, let me send the request. Now you can see if I send the request for the ID 1 whose name is Jayesh, you can see division got updated to B. If I make it, let's suppose BA. And now if I send the request, you can see division is being updated to BA. Like I got an object where the same key is being updated to whatever I am passing in the object. What if I will simply go and add another key over there? Let's suppose I'm simply going telling it, please add my current class like this as well. And make it equals to what? Make it is equals to 6, like this. Now, if I send the response, we can see current class becoming 6 and division becoming BA. So those 2 keys are separated there. But if you look at the logic, I'm simply telling it, put it in a new variable. But what do I need to do? I need to tell it, whatever this old OBJ is, wherever it exists inside my main array, whatever its index is, over there, put my new OBJ. Replace it there. I'm not replacing right now. I'm simply creating a new object with the data. I'm not replacing it in my main data. So how do we replace it? For that, I will simply go create a variable with the name of index. Is equal to, I will simply tell it, the old OBJ which you have found over there, this one, please find its index inside my student array. So I will simply tell it, in my student array, please try to find its index of what? My old OBJ. So if my old OBJ is, let's suppose this one. So what's its index? Its index is 6 with respect to array. So we simply got the index of that particular old OBJ whose ID we are passing inside the URL. Then I will simply tell it, do one simple thing. Now in my student array, add the index which I have for that old OBJ. Please update it with my new OBJ. Good evening, Pradnya. Good evening. Am I clear? Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Do we understand what it means? The student array in the index where my old OBJ existed, replace it with the updated new OBJ that we have, and finally return my student array that we have. I hope this makes sense. So now if I go here, in this, if I try to send the data, the element who's at ID 1, you can see Jayesh's current class is updated to 6, division is updated to B. So if I go here, let me pass ID as 5, and let me say current class is 62, division is A over here. And if I send the response, you can clearly see the element at 5th ID has current class and division updated. So we have simply told it the ID that I am passing, find that old OBJ, then find its index using a method called as studentarray.index. And then finally over there, simply go and update it in my student array at the same index. For console old OBJ, that's what we did now. See, instead of consoling, I will send it in the output, which is one of the same things. So I will console my new OBJ. That's what you want, right? Whatever the value is, please console it. You know what dot 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 means. How many of you know what dot 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 means? Is there anyone who doesn't know what dot 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 means? 3 dots mean? Give me a quick confirmation. If not, I will tell you in 2 minutes what dot 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 means. Shall I tell you what dot 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 means? Let me tell you. Let me tell you quickly. Let's suppose over here I have a file with the name of index.js. Let's understand what dot 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 means quickly. In this case, I have an object where obj is equals to, it contains few key value pairs. Let's suppose name is equals to Adhar. Done. Then it contains another age is equals to 28. That's my age, right? Then comma over here, I will simply have, let's suppose salary. In this case, let's salary is 5,000. That's not my salary, but it is this, right? When we talk about, I simply want to create copy of it. I want to create clone of this obj. So what I will do is I will simply go say where obj2 is equals to, create a new object, and then whatever key value pairs of obj are, please separate them here. Separate means pehlan. Separate means separate the key value pairs, not the object, but whatever key value pairs it has. So we can clearly see, if I try to say console.log my obj2, we can clearly see as soon as I execute this, we got the same object in the output. Now this curly brace, I put it deliberately, but when I say dot 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 obj, it means separate the key value pairs that you contain inside obj. I hope that makes sense. But I can simply go now, since I know these 3 key value pairs will be simply separated here, I want to update my age from 28 to 40. Now I know at this point of time it contains age 28. I will simply go say comma, please update my age with 50. And now if I try to execute this, we can clearly see now age is updated with 50. Yes or no? So simply dot 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 obj, then update this particular key value pair, which means it will override this key with the 50 value. And that's what exactly I am doing over here. Whatever my old obj is, please replace those keys that are in data. So in data, if I have over here current class and division only, in that case, take the current class and division, update it in old obj, and create a new obj after. So I hope this makes complete sense that we are updating and creating a new object out of that. Then please find the index of that old obj from my student array, and add that array. Please update my new obj. Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. We understood it. Every single person. Every single person. Perfect. Now, this simply means that now I can simply go and update my data. So I will simply go here, tell it to do one thing. In this case, I don't want you to update my 5th. I want you to update my 3. And now if I simply say send, you can see at index 3, its current class and division is updated. I hope this makes sense. Now let's move a little bit forward quickly. Now what do we want is we want to delete. We want to perform another request on the same app, on the same API, where I will simply tell it to delete an item. So let me simply go implement an HTTP method called as delete. Now, of course, the logic is going to be same in this case as well. I will pass an ID, whose ID, the item which we want to delete in it. So I have passed that over here. Then I will read it. Once I will read it, I will simply find an old obj. I will find that object which I want to delete. Then I will simply tell, if the object is not there, give me not found. Then I am not trying to read anything from body, so I will remove this. I'm not trying to create a new object, I will remove this. Then I will simply tell whatever the old obj you have found, please tell me what's its index. And then over it, please delete it. Now, how do we delete an item from an array? Tell me quickly in the chat. How do we delete an array item from an array, which is at this particular index? I want to only remove that particular item whose index is old obj. Come on, what's the method that we use? We use a method called as. So we will simply tell it on my student array. Please do one simple thing. On my student array, I will simply want you to splice. Splice is a method with the help of which we can tell it on which index how many items you want to delete. So I will simply tell it at index 1 or whatever this index of old obj is. So if I pass 4 here, it will simply find an old obj that find that object's index. And then it will simply put that index over it. Then second argument is how many you want to delete. So how many do we want to delete? Only one. Only that particular item whose index I'm passing. And then I'm simply removing it. Done. So now if I go here and if I simply tell it, please delete what the item which is at index 3. And now if I send it, we can clearly see 2 and 4. The item at index 3 is deleted. Now if I go here, if I simply say add the index 6, make a send request, you can clearly see at the index 6, it is deleted. I hope this makes complete sense. Of course, you can implement filters, you can implement X, Y, Z methods, completely up to you, whatever you want to do. Splice is a very straightforward method for deletion and insertion. So use that only. Why I use splice in this case? The reason is because I wanted to update the original array. Splice is a method which will affect the original array. If I use filter will create a new array. Right? Filter returns new array, filter method of arrays. Splice will affect the original array immediately. That's why I use splice method. So with this, we have created our delete as well. Okay. Now, since I guess this is completely clear, give me a quick confirmation in the chat because I have a very simple question for you. If this is clear, quickly, give me a confirmation. Every single person. Very good. We are right. Now look at this. Look at this. There is a small discussion that we usually do between two methods for updation. One is called put, another one is called patch. Let's suppose I will simply go here and put a patch here. Put a patch here. And then in this case, I will simply tell it, make a request to patch, add index 6 and update current class and division. Now, if I send a request, you can see Piyush's current class is updated with 62 and division PA as well. It's properly working. But then what is the difference between put and patch? First of all, whether you create a new element or whether you update, it does not depend on post and put. This is what I mean. We know this post method is actually responsible for creating new data. But what if I don't write my logic in this manner? I write my logic that I want to create a new data in it. Let's suppose I want my logic like this. So right now, according to this, let me put an ID here. Can we say post is actually responsible for updating my array, not creating a new data? Can we say that? Right. Let's see if it works. I will go here and let me go post. And now if I simply send, we can see again it updated my ID at the 6th element. If I go here and say 1, post is right now actually updating my first element. So I'm not using post right now for creation. It depends entirely on what the logic inside I'm writing over there. But as I said in the last class, we are talking about REST APIs. REST APIs follow certain rules, which are post will be used only for creation, put will be or patch will be used for updation, delete will be used for deletion. But it also depends on the method, the logic that we will write inside it. But if I'm talking about REST APIs, I will not write update logic in the post because we have to follow some rules. Otherwise, we can do creation post as well. I hope that makes sense. So let me get this back. Another very important point. Then what is the difference between put and patch? Because sometimes we use put for update, sometimes we use patch for update. When we say patch simply means I am trying to update a single key on the same index where it already exists. So patch simply means I will simply go to this object and I will put a patch on it. Maybe my division has to change, or maybe my current class and division has to change, which means I'm not overriding it. I'm simply patching it. But on the same time, when I go to my put method over here, put method in lot of examples will mean I am trying to replace the whole object with a new key value with the same key but with the new data. So I'm trying to override it and then remove it where it exists and add it at the end. How do we do that here? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you what put means. I will go here. I will simply tell it the same supplies method, Control C. And I simply tell it do one thing. Let me do this. So I have simply implemented supplies here, which means once I found the index, I am simply removing that item from the array. Then after that, I'm simply telling it in the same student array. Please do one thing. Let me not add it like this, although let me keep it there. Let me comment it. I will simply tell it in the student array. Please push. Push what? Push my new obj. Now, if I go here, if I send a request, add index 1. So let's wait. So there's an error, cannot post, of course, because it's a, what is the method that I used? Patch. Let me use put. So now if I go here, if I simply implement put, now I will send a request. Once I send a request, do you see element at index 1 now? No. So I simply removed that and then created the updated version at the bottom. So it means it is there, then remove it and override it. If it is not there, then create it. So that's what put and difference between patch means. Patch means at the same place, patch few keys of it. But when we talk about REST APIs, we use put for simply updating simple key value pairs as well. Okay. And that's what we mean by REST APIs. I hope this makes complete sense. This was just to give you an idea because sometimes maybe an interview, they might ask you what's the difference between put and patch. You should be able to answer it properly. Okay. With this, we will close our discussion on this CRUD operation, where we simply create a new set of data, where we read the set of data using get method, where we updated our set of data using put method, and where we deleted our data with delete method. Am I clear? Am I clear? I need a quick confirmation in the chat before I start MongoDB. Quickly tell me. Quickly. Everyone must reply yes. Or no, if you have not understood it. Clear? Perfect. Let's move forward and let's understand one simple thing. When we talk about web applications, do you think when designing a backend, you will create your data in the files? Even if you did that, once I created that data in post method over there, did it make a change to the original file? No. So we need a storage over there where the changes will also reflect. So if I'm trying to create a new account, it should be there. If I'm trying to update, it should be there. So not for only that instance. If I stop my server here and run it again, it will always start with the initial data. It does not matter how much data I have added in the past. As soon as I restart my server, it will have only 7 items, which will be on in its original form, which we do not want. So we need a storage over here, and that storage is our MongoDB. So we will use a database over here. So in MERN development, whenever we talk about full stack development using MERN, we have one very special database called as MongoDB, which we use in order to create a database. Now later on, please go on the internet and try to find MongoDB software. Later on, don't install it right now. I already have it installed. Later on, what you will do is you can simply go MongoDB download like this and simply search here and then go to community server download. If you want to download, if you don't want to even download it, you can work with cloud as well. But I would suggest you to download it. Why? Because when we build our projects, we will want it to test in the local setup, in the local computer first. So you should have a local server of database as well. So for that, download this. So once you download it over here, you can simply download it and install it. It's a very simple installation that you have. So install it. I already have installed it. Once you install this software called as community server, then go inside tools here. You can see this tools option. In this tools, download the MongoDB shell as well. Shell will be used to write your commands in the MongoDB. Although you will not use it later on. For today's class only, I'm going to use shell. I will never after that use shell. So even if you don't download in both these two softwares, it's completely okay. Okay. But I have downloaded this. If you want to download it, download it. Okay. So you can install the shell as well. With the help of the shell, you should be able to properly communicate with it using your own terminal. So it uses your own terminal of MongoDB. Okay. Now there might be some complications in downloading, in installing. If it does not work, it's okay. You tell me on my WhatsApp. I will help you with the installation quickly. I will share you a WhatsApp YouTube video that actually will help you in the installation. But let's suppose you have installed, because we are not going to waste any time in installation. And we don't need installation. We can use cloud. Okay. We will understand it in a few minutes. MongoDB Compass, once we open that, we will understand what is the difference. Okay. Allow me some time. Let's suppose you have installed the community server. Once you install the community server, you will get a software. So if you search MongoDB, you can see I already have a MongoDB Compass installed. So if I open this, it gives me a graphical user interface for MongoDB database. So you can see this is how it looks like. This is how it looks like. I can add a new connection here. I won't do that right now because we will understand first basics of MongoDB, then we will talk about this. Okay. As of now, let's go and let's try to understand quickly what our MongoDB is actually about. Okay. So allow me a second. I will try to find quickly my Mongoose, the tool that I created. And in this, I will simply go and open my terminal. So you can see this is my terminal where I will write my MongoDB commands. So I will simply click enter. Once I click enter, you can see it is running the MongoDB server. Ignore all of this. I know that there are a lot of students who are first time learning MongoDB. It's completely okay. Ignore it. First, we will understand what MongoDB is. Then we will talk about the installation again. Okay. What is MongoDB? MongoDB is a database which simply allows me to store data in it in a very special form. It stores in BSON form, or you can simply remember JSON form. Okay, JavaScript object notation. We know if I go on the internet, let me search my data tables in SQL. If I click enter, whenever we talk about storing data, this is the most time that this is how you might have seen data stored on the internet, or even when you try to store data in your rough copy as well, you create columns and rows because we are much more comfortable storing our data in this particular pattern. But MongoDB says no, don't store in it. Since we already know JavaScript, and in JavaScript we know what objects are. We are comfortable around that. So MongoDB's whole structure is actually similar to what we have in JavaScript. So MongoDB also uses internally JavaScript as well. So the data that I will store there will be in shape of objects, array of objects. Okay, but before I write my first command, over here, whenever we talk about creating data, number one thing, if I am using SQL, over there we have our database. And in that database, we have different tables. So they are called tables, right? Entity tables. But the same table inside our MongoDB is called collection. What's it called? So we don't call tables, we call collection. Collection of items. Collection. Number one term. Second thing is, in this table, each row is called a tuple. What's it called? Tuple. But in my collection in MongoDB, each row is called a document. I mean, each entry is called a document. So we simply have lot of documents, and all of those when combined creates a collection. And lot of collections when combined, they create database. So in database, there will be lot of collections similar to what we have inside SQL, lot of tables. And then in every collection, we will have documents. So each document will represent one entity, similar to what we have inside SQL, each tuple. Is that clear? Now, how do we create our data? When we talk about document is nothing but an object. And we know what objects are, key value pairs. So we will store our data like this. So let's suppose I want to store a data point about me. So there is a database in which a collection is there for students. So whenever there's a collection for students, I want to store name, age, gender. This is the structure. So instead of creating a tuple or row of it, I will simply tell it, create name, put a value in it, whatever the value is, comma, its age, then value in it, and then gender, and then simply value. So this is how I will store my data inside databases. And don't we all know that this structure we have already used inside our JavaScript? So if we have already used the structure inside JavaScript, it will be very easy for me to actually deal with such kind of data structure. And it is very lightweight. It's very much lightweight. So you can store too much of data and it won't take that much of memory. Too much lightweight. Okay. Let me go here. I don't know what's happening. Okay, let me go here and let's try to understand very simple operation. In this MongoDB, this is my MongoDB. I am not working with Node. Remember, I am not working with Node.js. This terminal that I have, it belongs to MongoDB. So whatever I will write over here, it goes and deals with the MongoDB server that is on my local computer, which is serving on port number 27017. So once you install MongoDB, if you run the MongoDB server inside your local system, it listens on a port which is called a 27017. Remember when we created server using Node.js HTTP module or using Express.js, we made it listen to a port. Remember, we made it listen to a port 8000, 4000, 3000, or whatever port number was. Similarly, in my computer, I also have my MongoDB server right now running on a port called as 27017. So later on, if I have to access any data, I will access data from this port, which is called a 27017. Okay. Now, in this case, I want to create my database. How do we create database? So we use a simple command over here, simple command to create a database in MongoDB. These commands are restricted to MongoDB. Do not think that we are going to use these commands later on. Some of them we will use, but not all of them. I will simply use a command called as use and then database name. Let's suppose database name that I'm trying to create is school, like this. So use school. So what it will do is it will create the database school and then it will switch my control to school. Are you able to see before this control was on test? Now my control is on school. So whatever commands I will write, all of those commands will be executed on school. On the same time, if you look at the compass, someone asked me what's compass. So with help of compass, MongoDB compass as software, you can connect it to any server that is on your local or on the internet or any server which you have. I know my MongoDB compass is listening to port 27017. So I will simply tell it connect to it. So once it connects, you can clearly see there are already some databases over there. Admin is there, config is there, exit is there, local is there. So there are some databases that I have worked on in this case. So once I worked on this, so over here also similar. So this is the server my MongoDB compass is allowing me to connect it to. So this particular MongoDB compass is simply a graphical user interface where instead of writing commands, I can store data by directly clicking on buttons. It gives me a better user interface to communicate with it. But we as a developer, we should not too much use graphical user interface. We should depend on what is called terminals, text-based interfaces over there, terminals, command-based interfaces. Now let's go and let's try to understand what we need to do. Now my control is on school. So if you look at this, my control is the school database. And right now, if I open my compass, MongoDB compass, do you see school database got created? No. As long as you don't put data in it, you won't see the database. Oh, okay. So let me go here. I will simply tell in the database, if you want to make any connection to it, write DB. DB represents the database on which the control is. DB inside is please create a collection. But how do we create a collection? db.collection. Is this how we do it? Maybe, maybe not. So we simply tell it in the DB, I want to create the collection. See, when we talk about our database must contain collections. So I would simply tell it db.collections. Let's see if this is the command because we don't use these commands. We use proper Mongoose over the Node.js. So db.collections.students. Let's see if this exists. Although I guess not, it is perfect. Now after that, right now I simply want to see collections. So I will simply say show my collections like this. So if I click enter at this point of time, you cannot even see collections as well. Why? Because there's no data in them. I told it in the database, please create a collection called as students, and there's nothing over there. I don't have any students collection right now. So what I will do is I will simply tell in the DB, inside my collection called as students, please insert my data, insert one. And what is it I'm going to pass? Since I know I have to create documents inside each collection, I will pass object because object is a document in which I will simply tell it name, first key, and name is equal to, let's suppose, Adfar at this point of time. And I will simply click enter. Once I click enter, you can clearly see it says acknowledge true. And it actually assigned an ID to it by default, which is this particular ID, 550, something like this. What does it mean? I told it inside a collection called as students, please go and insert one document at this point of time. where the document is an object which simply contains a key name and the values are. Now I want to see whether this data is there or not. What I can do is I can execute a command or I can go in my compass. So let me simply go and tell it to refresh my connection. So let me simply go here and tell it, hey, please do one thing, refresh the database. Once I refresh the database, you can see a school database got created in which there's a collection that we have with the name of students and we have our data. But how many key value pairs we created? We created only one, name. Always remember, whenever we deal with MongoDB, whenever we insert any document in it, it will automatically attach an ID to it so that later on we can uniquely identify this and find this document. So it will always attach an ID to it, which we do not. It on its own assigns the ID to it. Done. Similarly, I will simply go here and I will simply go inside MongoDB Compass. I will again tell it, inside this, please add another key with the name of Rohan over here, like this. If I click enter, it says acknowledge it, true. And if I now go here in the MongoDB Compass, try to refresh this, we can clearly see our data got created in this case. So let me refresh the database. So let me go here, let's say refresh. How do we refresh? Again here, I guess, right? So let me refresh the database. If I refresh the database, if I click on this, why is it not working? It should properly have the data here. Maybe it's not getting refreshed properly. So this is live. Yes, it's live. If I refresh my database, it's not displaying me any data, right? So what is the solution to this? I won't depend on the compass. I will simply go here and I will write a command. Is this visible? I guess we can use clear command here. No, CLR. No, what is the command that we use to clear? Someone do a quick Google search. How do we clear this terminal? I want to clear this entire terminal. I guess we use clear or something like that, but ignore it. I want to find all of the CLS. Very good. Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, since when I try to refresh my terminal here, it did not display the second document. But I know I am a developer. I will simply tell it. Using the same database, please tell me in the student collection, please find all the documents that it contains. So now if I click enter over there, you can clearly see it returns me an array of objects. Why it tells me in this students collection, there are two objects that I have. One is of name Adfar, another one is of name Rohan. So over there, I'm not sure what the reason was. It was not displaying me my data, but data is there. Data is there. Definitely data is there. If I refresh my page, unfortunately, it's not working here. It should work. Okay. So let me go here. Let me click on students again. It should have properly worked, but unfortunately, I don't know what the reason is. But we have find method with the help of which what we can do is we can insert. Now, one very important point. Whenever we talk about our MongoDB, we say MongoDB schema-less. Okay, we say MongoDB schema-less. What does that mean? Few seconds back, we saw a table on the internet like this. Okay, or like this, any table. Now it contains a table with employee ID, employee name, employee salary, employee age, employee gender, employee department. So it means I have defined what attributes this table contains. Now, don't you think whatever data I will insert, this will be the always format of the same entire table? Every row will contain these keys only. Can I suddenly tell it for this row over there, add over there something like maybe age as well, although age is already there. Let's suppose something else, some other key. Can we do that? Of course not. We cannot. Because there's a structure defined, we have to follow the structure throughout. This is called schema. We are telling our SQL tables to follow schema. But on the same time, if I talk about this MongoDB compass, MongoDB, you can see this contains name, this contains name. But now what I will do is I will simply tell it, do one thing. Insert over here. So inside this, I want you to insert one. This time, insert the object with a key called as name. Perfectly fine. The value over there should be Ayush. Very good. But then for this document inside the same collection, I want you to add 30. As what? As my key value pair. So let me simply go it like this, like this, like this. And finally, I will simply go close it like this. And once I click enter, it says there's an error. Yes, slash. And now if I click enter, it works. So it means MongoDB is schema-less. We don't have to find the structure. We don't have to follow the structure, sorry. First two objects contain these, rest another object contains this. So in another object, I can add more key value pairs. In another object, I can add more key value pairs. Depends on me. But is this what we desire in web development? No. We desire schema-oriented structures. We will not have in the same collection different structures. But I'm saying MongoDB allows you that. This is one other difference between SQL and NoSQL databases. Okay. One another very important thing. We use a command called as insert one. What if, and imagine that I have to insert 100 students data. So do you think you will insert them 100 students one by one? The answer is no. We can use one another method over there called as insert many. So what I can do is I can simply go and tell it insert many like this. Then I can simply go and pass a comma over here. So if I pass comma, I will simply tell it, let me change the name. So let's use Ankit this time. So I'm going to pass name as Ankit, age, let me keep 30. And then another object that I'm passing over here. For this, the name is, let's suppose, Nadeem. So let me simply go pass name as Nadeem. And then I will simply pass for this. I wanted to pass age as, but always remember that it's going to be JSON data. So age is equal, let's put 24, like this. If I click enter, it will throw an error. I know that. So if I click enter, you can clearly see it's throwing me an error. Now the question is why? Why is it throwing an error? I passed two objects. I told it right now insert two objects at a time. The reason is if you see in the database, it returns not objects, but those objects wrapped in an array. So always remember a collection is nothing but an array of objects. So similarly, when you pass more than one object, it's expecting you to follow the same structure as well. So when we say insert many, in this particular case, I will simply go implement square bracket here like this. And then I'm simply going to tell it square bracket here as well. Like this. So if I click enter, it says acknowledge. But how many object IDs it inserted? 1 and 2. Two object IDs. Now if I simply go say find method, we can clearly see we have our data sorted. So at the same time, I am able to insert multiple data. Am I clear until now? Do we have any questions? Quickly. Do we have any questions? So MongoDB is a NoSQL database which does not support schema. It supports schema, but it's not a rule there. You can even ignore the schema as well. It is schemaless structure in which we can insert our data in JSON format and we store a collection that is an array of objects, but JSON structure. Moving a little bit forward. At this point of time, I am simply trying to implement find. But what if, and when I say find, it means return all the data it contains. But what if I want it to return all the objects where the name is Adfar only? Right now, if I go here, let me try to insert more Adfars in it. So insert one, let me insert over there Adfar or name Rohan, again name Rohan, again name Rohan. So let me simply go here and if I simply say find, we can see how many Rohans are there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what do I want to do is I simply want to implement a command over there, simple query. These are called queries, with help of which we should be able to again do what? Find only those documents where the name is Rohan. In that particular case, I can simply say db.students. Inside the students, please go and find. Now, inside this bracket, I will simply pass a query. Any query which will match it, which will uniquely identify it. I will simply tell it where my name over here is equals to what? Is equals to Rohan, like this, with the R capital, like this. So I've told it, please find me those documents where the name is Rohan. So if I click enter, it returns again an array of object where the name is Rohan, Rohan, Rohan. And how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Similarly, what I can do is I can simply say, tell me where the name is Adfar, like this. If I click enter, you can clearly see, although I have only one document over there, but it still returned array of objects. So always remember, whenever on your collection you implement find method, it will return an array of objects. Whether there's only one, there's n number, it does not matter. Am I clear? Am I clear? Do we understand this properly? How do we find? Now, let's suppose over there, the command which I implement is Rohan. How many does it return? Name Rohan, name Rohan, name Rohan, name Rohan. 4. Now, I want it to return only one. The first one it matches to. The first Rohan it matches to. In this particular case, instead of using find, I will use find one. What? find one. So now if I simply click enter, it returns only one row. Now in this case, it will not return array of object, it will return object only. So find one returns object only, document only, find returns the collection, the array of objects. I hope that makes complete sense. Moving quickly a little bit forward. Now we have done two operations, read, we have done create. Let's talk about update. How do we update our data? Okay. So we use similarly update one and update money. We use delete one and delete money. So these are few operations that we actually implement over there to perform a logic. Now, what you need to do is you need to simply go there and you need to simply find such kind of, what is called queries over there. So with the help of these queries, what you can do is you can simply implement such kind of logic. Let me try to find update. See, I am telling it in the students collection, please update where the age is 25 and then set it to name Aniket. So update that document where age is 25 and update its name to Aniket. So you have to use $set over there. This is the syntax. So for example, I will simply tell over here, please find where the name is Rohan. So I will simply go find where name is equals to Rohan, like this. Rohan. Okay. And then set it, $set. Update its name to Aniket. Now if I click enter over there, so once I click enter, it says true. Matched count was 1 and updated modified count is also 1. Now, why is it updating only 1? Because there are multiple Rohans. It is updating multiple. It's updating only 1 because the command is update 1. Command is not update money. Although there were multiple Rohans that we have. So I'm simply telling it, please update where the name is Adfar over there. So if the name is Adfar, go to that particular document in the collection students and update it with Rashid, like this. So now if I go and click enter, we can clearly see it says updated is 1, matched count is 1. So now if I simply implement find over the find method normally, and once I do that, we can clearly see there's no Adfar, this Rashid. So it has updated as well. But what if I have to update many? There are multiple many Rohans that we have. I want to update all of them. So what is the method that I'm going to use? Update money, like this. So update money, where the name is Rohan, please set it to name Aniket. So if I click enter, you can see it says matched count was 3, updated count is 3. So I'm so sorry, Rohan, but you have been replaced with Aniket. So now if I click enter, you can see Aniket, 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 Aniket. There are 4 Anikets that we have. So we have update money. Similarly, what we can do is we can simply tell please delete. Please delete now Aniket. Since I replaced my Rohan with Aniket, now I will want to delete my Aniket. So what am I going to do? I'm simply going to tell it delete 1. Delete 1. Which one you are going to delete? You are going to delete while the name over here is equal to what? Is equal to the Aniket. Like this. Like this. So now if I click enter, it says acknowledge it true, deleted count 1. So now if I try to implement find, how many Aniket do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what if I want to delete all of them? I will simply go say delete money. Delete all of those where the name is Aniket. Deleted count is 3. And now if I try to say find, we can clearly see there's no data with respect to Aniket. From all of this, you will not use insert, you will not use insert money, you will not use delete money, you will not use update money on all these. You will use maybe find or find one method. Because these are queries related to MongoDB. There are a lot of concepts related to MongoDB, which we will see later on. Right now, we are just getting familiar with it at some level. That's it. So we will first of all try to connect this MongoDB with our Node.js application, try to make changes in the Node.js application. Then we will think about rest of the things. Okay, then we will talk about all those, advanced concepts inside MongoDB, what expressions are, what aggregators are, how they work. We will talk about that later on. But right now, I hope you know like what is the format of data inside MongoDB, how the database works. Yes or no? Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Am I clear? Every single student, please reply. And please make sure you like the video right now. And it's very unfortunate to see there are only 24 students. Come on, guys. I'm waiting for some yeses in the chat. There's only one student who is typing yes. quickly. Perfect. Great. Okay. Now moving a little bit forward. Okay. What we will do is we will come to this later on. And first of all, before I move forward, all those new students who have not that much worked on these technologies, don't try to download this. If you try to download it, watch a proper installation video from YouTube. How to get this working, how to get MongoDB Compass working. It has a proper installation process. You have to create proper environment variables. So you don't have to do that. Because why? Because you will use cloud MongoDB. So we have the MongoDB servers on internet as well. We will simply copy its server link and then we will connect our backend application. So you don't have to deal with all of this. Don't do that. Initially, not at this point of time. Later on, once you are a little bit experienced in it, then think about it. Okay. So don't get confused with that. Let me close my MongoDB Compass. Okay, I want to close it. But remember, the local server that I have, it is on port 27017. Now moving a little bit forward, now let's come back to our Node.js. Now, whatever operations we did, we know now we have a MongoDB server, which is running on port 27017. Now, we want to simply perform all of these operations on that particular server. But how can we connect our Node.js and MongoDB servers? How can we connect our server, which I have created using Express, or which I have used creating using HTTP, or we are still talking about Express to Express? How can we connect it with our MongoDB? There is a small framework in between, a module which we use, third-party module called as Mongoose. So remember, today's title was MongoDB and Mongoose. So we will use Mongoose over there, a module which we will install npm I Mongoose, and Mongoose will actually provide me ways with help of which we will be able to deal with MongoDB and connect it with my Express.js. Because I'm not going to write over there db.students.insert many, db.students.delete many, update many. I won't do that. Because there has to be in between a proper intermediate, a proper interface with help of which we will communicate with our backend and the database. And that is what we mean by moves. So let me close this VS Code. I will simply go inside the folder. In this, I will simply go inside the folder which we have called as, what is the folder name? August 24. In the same backend, I will create one other folder with the name of Mongoose, in which we will learn Mongoose module, how to connect it with the server. So let me go here. Let me simply open this with code. In this case, since I know I have to use Express if I want to connect it to the backend, and then second thing is I want to make sure that I will use Mongoose. So there are external modules which I am using. In order to use external modules, what is the first thing that we do? What is the first thing that we do? Quickly. What is the first thing that we do whenever we talk about external modules? Very good, Ankit. The first thing that I will do is I will create package.json. So I will simply go say npm init -y. Done. Very good. Second thing is I will go to terminal. In this terminal, I will install them. Let me say npm express, npm I express, and then I will simply tell it to install Mongoose as well. So once I install them, both of these, Express as well as Mongoose, I can simply see after a few seconds, few dependencies will be here in this particular file. And what will be those two dependencies? One is Express, another one is Mongoose. Perfectly fine, wonderful. Now, what am I going to do? I am going to talk about Mongoose only at this point of time. I'm not going to deal with Express. We will deal with Express, but right now I want to simply deal with Mongoose. Okay. In this case, let me simply go create a file with the name of index.js, in which I need to use functionalities of Mongoose. So what am I going to do? If I want to use functionalities of Mongoose, what am I going to do? Where my Mongoose is equals to please require what my Mongoose. So this is the interface which will allow me to connect this Node.js with the MongoDB server anywhere, whether on internet, cloud, or whether in my local. At this point of time, I will try to make change in the local only. But how do we connect it? How do we connect? Mongoose gives me a simple method. Simple method. Very good, very good. We use require method. Very good. So Mongoose gives me a simple method over here. That's called a connect. So Mongoose dot connect. In this connect over here, you will simply pass that string with help of which you will be able to connect to the server. Now, right now, in my local host, on which port my server was listening to, on which port my MongoDB server is right now running to, on what? It is running on localhost 27017. So if you go to MongoDB Compass here, you can clearly see it's listening on localhost 27017. So what you can do is you can simply click over and I can simply copy the connection string, right? It's connected to this port. So now if I go here and if I simply paste it, I'm simply telling it, please connect to this particular server, which is on localhost 27017. Later on, I will replace the same string to the cloud MongoDB on the internet, right? Eventually, when you will build a website, you will not connect the website with the localhost DB. It's working only in your local system. So we have to connect it with a real database, which we will later on create. Always remember that this connect method that we have, it returns a promise. It will return success if this connection is successful. It will reject it if it is not properly working. Now we want to see whether it's working or not. What is the keyword which we use to resolve a promise? What is the keyword that we use? We simply use dot then. So if the promise is successfully, then do this. Simply give me a message, console.log connected to MongoDB. I simply want this message. I don't want anything else. After this, I will simply go here and I will simply tell it, please execute this. So let me simply say node index.js. And once I click enter, this is what I'm trying to do. I have connected with this particular MongoDB server and I'm simply telling it execute it. So if I execute this, we should be able to see a message in few seconds, which is connected to MongoDB. If it does not, it's completely okay. It's completely okay if it does not, but it does. You can see it says connected to MongoDB. Now, for some people, for some systems, maybe this local host does not work. If you write MongoDB //localhost port 27017, maybe it will throw an error. Can anyone tell me what does localhost actually mean? What does it mean? Localhost. It is the IP address of the local computer. Yes or no? It is the IP address of local computer, which is also 127.0.0.1. So localhost is this 127.0.0.1. This is what localhost means. So you can replace the localhost with this. So now if I try to connect it, hopefully it should work. It also says connected to MongoDB. So whether you put localhost or 127.0.0.1, it's one of the same things. Similar to if we write in the output browser localhost 3000. If you write also 127.0.0.1/3000, it's also one of the same things. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now what next? What are we trying to do? It has connected to this database, which is listening on this port. It has connected. What do we need to do? What do we need to do? Now we need to store data in it, right? We need to create a collection to which we will, a database to which in which we will simply put our data. We need to create a database in it, like the database which we had inside the terminal was school. Similarly, we need to tell it what the database name is. So whatever your database name is to which you want it to connect it to, pass that over here. So I will simply pass, this is nothing but our test DB. So it simply means connected to this database if it exists inside 27017. If it does not exist there, then create it. This is what it means. So /testdb. If this database is there, connected to it. If it's not, create new. But then what next? And now even if I right now execute it as well, it still will work. So if I click MongoDB index.js, it's working. Connecting method is properly working. How do we know it's working? Because .then callback function got executed. This will get executed only if this is returning success. So it's working. Now moving a little bit forward. Now let's understand one very important point. Very important point. When I started MongoDB, I told you one simple thing, which was MongoDB is schemaless. MongoDB is schemaless, right? Even if we store one document with few key value pairs and then another document with different type of format, it's completely allowed, at which we saw. But when we talk about Mongoose, Mongoose is an extra layer on it. Mongoose supports schema. You have to define schema. Let me give a very simple example. I have to build a sign up page for my website. So when I build sign up page, it will contain 3 key value pairs: my username, my email, my password. Do you think for one user it has to be username, email, password? For another user it has to be gender, salary, and age? No. The website demands schema. Website says that for all users it should be same structure which should be saved in the database, so that it will be easy for me to retrieve it as well. So Mongoose, this extra layer on the MongoDB, with the help of which we are able to connect to two things, Node.js with the MongoDB server, it says no implement schema. So we have to create schema in this Mongoose. We have to create schema. MongoDB does not support, but Mongoose says no, create schema, because that's what our requirement is. It should not work like for one user it's storing this key value pairs, for another user it's storing different. No, that's not how it's going to work. So how do we create a schema? Let's suppose in this testDB, I am storing again student, in which I am storing name, age, email, phone. These are the 4 key value pairs that I'm storing. So I have to tell it this is the structure. So how do we define that? Simple. Constant create a schema variable, in which simply tell it, simply create the constructor new and use mongoose.schema method. Mongoose dot, we will talk about models. We will talk about models. Patience, patience, patience. Mongoose dot schema. And this schema in this student that I will create, it will follow a structure where the first key will be simply string, comma, second key will be simply email, which will also be string. Second key will be also string. Third key will be age, which will be a number. And maybe fourth key over there, something else. Let's have only these 3. It means I am simply telling it in the schema student, whenever using my front end or whenever using my back end, I am going to try to store this collection inside the testDB. It will always contain 3 key value pairs. Or if it does not contain always, it cannot contain anything else. It's a schema that I'm defining, that I want it to have 3 key value pairs: name, email, age. Whether all of them are required or not, that's not the point. But this is the schema. This is the structure. I hope that makes complete sense. Now, this is the structure. This is the structure. But have I created a collection? Have I told it what collection we are creating inside the database testDB? Tell me yes or no. Have I created a collection? Quickly, have I created a collection? No, I have not created a collection. I've simply told it there's a schema. I have not created a collection. So for that, you need to define one another variable. So let me go here and let me define a collection. Let me give that a name, students. So this is the collection that will be created inside our database. And in Mongoose, we don't call it collection, we call it model. What's it called? Model. So using Mongoose, please create a model with the name over there. You can give it a name, students. But this data will have a schema called a student. So do you see, I have passed this format over there and told it create a collection which will support this format. And this is what you need to do in MongoDB, nothing else. This is for every single collection that you create. These are the steps. Define its schema, define the model. Define its schema, define the model. And for that schema, I am telling it what is the model it's going to support. Sorry, schema it's going to support. What is the structure of it? Am I clear? Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Quickly. Done? Very good. Now let's move a little bit forward. Let's move a little bit forward. Now, what do we need to do? We defined a database. We told it what is the collection in which we want to create students, and the students in which all the documents should follow this schema. This is the structure that we have. Now, we need to store data in it right now. We use 2 ways of creating data as documents inside any collection, in this case, students. So let me define a function, any function. Let me simply say constant. Let me define a function which will be, let's say, adder is equal to a function like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. So I am defining a function called as adder, and let me call my adder here. So now if I go here and simply say console.log, tell it adder. If I execute this code, what will be the output? I'm calling this adder function. What's it printing? Adder. So I will define a function. Whenever this function is called, it's going to create a document inside our database. That's what we are trying to do. But what is the method we will use? We use a method over here called as create. So the student collection that you have, on this collection, please create. So we will not use insert money or insert method. No, we will use create because it's a Mongoose method. Now we are using Mongoose, a middle layer in between. So Mongoose will allow me to perform the operations on the database. So students.create. Create what? In this, we will tell it what we want to create. Let's suppose I will tell it, since this is the schema, create name, and this name is going to be equal to adfar. Then comma, please do one thing, write email, and this email is going to be equal to adfar@gmail.com. And then finally, another one is age, and this age is going to be equal to 28. That's what my age is, right? So I have told it in the students, please create a document and pass the document as an argument. This is one method. We will use create method. Am I clear? Simply create method, that's it. And then I will simply tell it, please call the adder function. So whenever I call this adder function, it means it's executing this code. Let's see whether it will work or not. In order to see whether it works or not, we have to execute our terminal. So let me stop my server and let me execute this server. It says connected to MongoDB. And let's see whether we have in the database the data or not. So let me refresh. So in this case, I will simply go and refresh the table. The refresh database, we can see another database got created, testdb, in which we have our data adfar@gmail.com 28. Now the change is, the difference in the previous creation and this creation is, this time I am using Mongoose for it. That's how easy it is to put data in the databases. Simple as that. Am I clear? Am I clear? Yes or no? Give me a quick confirmation. Quickly, then I will move forward with one last topic and then we will take a break. Quickly. So whenever you have to create any document on the collection, on the model which we used, on this, please use create method. Now, if I'm not using create method, there's one another way. So what we will do is we'll simply tell it, the student one that I'm trying to create, student one is equals to, simply use a new method and use the students collection here. In that collection, I will pass my object. So I will simply tell it in the collection, let me pass the object like this, and let me try to uncomment this. So what am I doing? I'm simply telling it, create a variable, student1, and using the collection students, please pass this object as an argument. But if I try to execute it, it won't make any change. If you use this tarika, if you use this way of adding a document inside database, then in that case, make sure you use a method called as save. So I will simply tell it, the student one that you have created, please save it like this. This is very mandatory. This is a very easier way. In the students.create, we simply pass the object one way. Another time, you might see that we are simply using something like this, but we have to save method on it. So now if I simply stop it, let me have one other object with the name of Rohan. So it's going to be rohan@gmail.com. Let me keep a same. So now if I simply click over here, execute this, go to the MongoDB server, and let me try to refresh my database. So if I refresh my database, we should be able to see two data, although it's not working. So what I will do is I will simply go and try to connect it to another one. So let me connect to this testdb. In this, you can see two documents, Rohan like this as well. So whether you use create or whether you use this way, it's one of the same things. But this is easier, straightforward. In this case, you have to put it in a variable first and then save it. Or if you don't put in a variable, then you save on it. So this is a little bit extra effort that we are putting over here. So this is how, using Mongoose, we can actually connect it to our database. We have not created our server yet. And from server, we are not able to do the stuff, CRUD operation. We have not done that. But this is simply using Mongoose. What are the things? Number one is we have to use mongoose.connect. Connect it to the database that we have. Then we will simply tell it, inside this database, The model that I'm going to create, what is the format it's going to accept? So we have to define schema. Then we will define model, and then we will simply use a method called as either create or create it like this. And then we will save if we are using second method. And this is how we can put our data from Node.js to our server using Mongoose, but not the MongoDB methods, MongoDB queries. Am I clear, guys? So we will take a break now, break of 10 minutes. And after that, we are going to see one another very important thing related to MongoDB, okay? And we will create our Express application and connect that Express application with the database that we have. And what are the different things we need to keep in mind while dealing with that. So let me create 10-minute timer. So we'll take a break of 10 minutes. Don't leave the class. Sit here in the break as well. Bye-bye, guys. See you after 10 minutes. Bye. Hey guys, hi everyone, welcome back. Hello, hi. Hey guys, hi everyone. Hello, hi, hi. I hope I'm audible as well as visible. Am I? I think I am, right? Perfect, great. Okay. So let's move forward. Now we have understood basics of our MongoDB, how the data is stored, what is the format of the data inside our MongoDB. We have seen that. Now it's time to actually create complete MERN applications. There are a lot of things that we need to discuss, which we will discuss eventually in the applications. Now, from today, we are going to create small projects, which will have backend, which will have its front end as well. So backend logic is very easy. Front end logic is very easy. You just have to understand what the flow is. So we will start with very basic, then we will advance it a little bit, advance. So we will create at least two to three projects, which we have discussed in the earlier classes as well, in the first class. So please pay close attention. So let me go here, let me close this VS Code. Okay, this was just for basics. And now inside this folder, I will simply go create my simple new folder with the name of, okay, over here. So I will create a new folder with the name of MERN. MERN means complete full stack application. Okay. So from today, all the classes will be very important, and I'm very much, hurt to see that there are only 19 students watching the class. Come on, we have 460, 70 students in our WhatsApp group. So I'm not sure why the rest of the people are, but who cares, right? Let's let's not talk about that. Okay. Now let's say we are talking about creating a MERN project. Okay. There are few things that we need to continue to talk about. Continue follow few very important rules. What about projects? Which projects are we talking about? The projects in front end, we will deal with them separately. Once I'm at home, we will start working on them either. Okay. Especially there are students that are not active in the class, so we won't work on those projects. All the students will be removed from the groups. Okay. So I can see only 20 students here, right? So only these students who are active will be part of it. If they are not active, they are not part of projects. Don't worry about it. Okay. But I know there are few students from the front end who are very much active. So they will be kept in the group, but they will be rest of the students will be left. Okay, will be removed. Now pay attention. We are going to talk about now creating full stack applications. Now, when we talk about full stack applications, it's not like we directly start with the code. Code is always last option whenever we have to build a project, whenever we have to build a product. Okay. Now, when we say full stack project, what does it mean? It means it will have a front end, it will have a back end. Backend logic we will write. Now, instead of using Thunder to send the requests, we will use proper front end to send the request and fetch the data that we have. Number one thing. Now, since we are building full stack web applications, it will have two parts to it. So number one will be client, like this, client. Number two project folder that we have here will be our server. Okay. In this server, we will write our backend logic. In this client, we will write our front end logic. So let me open this inside our VS Code like this. Okay. Now, in this case, the first thing is always whenever we are trying to build any project, 90% of time we always start with writing backend first. So once we write our backend, now we know how the data will flow in the application in the user interface. It becomes very easy for us. So every single time when you are working on a project, simply create two folders, client and server. In server, write server side logic. In client, write client side logic. Now in this server, we have to create our dependencies, install the dependencies. So what am I going to do? I'm simply going to go here, open the new terminal. In the new terminal, the first thing is look at this. The terminal right now control is in MERN folder. But is my server logic in MERN or server folder? It's server. So I will simply go cd server like this. Change the directory to server. Done. Now my terminal is at the server. So the first thing that I'm going to do is npm init -y. We will understand basic operations to write our server logic, which will actually insert data in the database. That's what our first small project is. But we will write front end for it. We will use Thunder as well. We will use Postman as well. But eventually we will make requests using front end. Second thing is in this we will use index.html. Sorry, not HTML but JavaScript, right? After that, in the same server, I will install few of the dependencies. Number one is Express, npm I Express. Number two is Mongoose. So npm I Express Mongoose, click enter. Both of these two will be installed in the server. In the meantime, I know what my server logic is. So where my Express is equals to require my Express. And then I will simply go here. What am I missing? Where my Express is equals to require Express. So what is the issue here? Expression expected. Am I missing anything? And then finally, what I will do is I will simply go say where my app over here is equals to Express like this, invoke it. So where Express is equals to require Express. What am I missing? What's happening over here? Why is it not working? Okay, it works. Perfect. It works. Because it was not maybe installed in the meantime. That's why it was giving me an error, but now it is there, right? I have created app. What is the third thing? On the app, make it listen to a port, which is let's suppose 8000, then comma, execute a function if the listening part is successful. In that case, console.log, tell it to implement listening to port 3000, or 8000. Done. After that, simply we have to write our basic logic. So app.get, please tell it to make a request on get request on slash. And in that case, if that happens, in the response, I will simply tell it, please display response.send. Send a simple response, which is h1. In the h1, I will simply say welcome to Express app. Like this, and let me close my h1 over here. Now I have to trigger my server, but I won't trigger it, stop it, trigger it, stop it, trigger it again and again. I won't do that. So what am I going to do? I'm simply going to say install npm I my nodemon. So why nodemon? Because I want to make sure it will trigger the server continuously. So I'm also going to add a dev dependency for the same as well. So dev, and in this case, I will simply go say nodemon my index.js. Perfectly fine. Now, is it installed? Yes, it's installed. So I will simply say now npm run dev. Now, what do I want to do? I want to perform two operations. Number one is I want to create a sign up page, a website. There will be sign up page and login page. These are the two things that I want. Okay. So what will I do in this case? I have to create, as I said, two logics. One is for register page, one is for login page. But when we say register, where will be the data stored? Data will be stored in the MongoDB. So let me go inside this particular file and I will simply use MongoDB.mongoose.connect. But for that, I have to require my Mongoose. So I will simply go here and let me simply tell it where my Mongoose is equals to please require my Mongoose like this. Now, one very important point over here. We won't write every single logic in the index.js. We will create separate files. So even when we talk about Mongoose, it will be stored in the next file, separate file in the isolation, and then we will simply export and import our modules. But we will do that eventually. Okay, right now I'm going to write the mongoose.connect logic over here only. So now I've simply did use the Mongoose and please implement a connector method. On what I'm simply going to go into my Mongoose and then I will simply do it. For this, let me copy the connection string. So in this case, I will simply paste my connection string like this. And let's suppose the database name is, when we say it's an old way, what does that mean? Do you mean import Express from Express? So I will simply go here. I will simply say, let's suppose I am trying to create user. I'm trying to store user and read. So database name will be not user. Let's suppose it is something else. Maybe I'm trying to create a database with the name of register. This is what I'm going to do. A register. Database name is register. Done. And then I will simply tell if the connection method is successful in that particular case, please perform a dot then, in which I will simply go like this, like this, like this. Console.log. I will simply get it. Please execute connected. So MongoDB. Done. Perfect. So now it says that there's an issue. What is the issue? The issue is, okay, it's already in use. Port 8000 is already in use. Why is that? Was my server running on 8000? So maybe it was running. In that case, let me simply go implement 4000. So it is listening to 4000 port. Okay. So now if I go at the bottom, we can clearly see listening to port 1000 and connected to MongoDB as well. Now, when we say I am creating a front end for sign up page, I am creating a front end for login page. Imagine I have already created those two pages. I have already created those two pages. Now, when we talk about storing data in the database, in that particular case, we should have a model first, a collection in the database. If we don't have collection in the database, how is it going to create the data over there? Yes or no? How are we going to create a data in the database unless and until we don't have collection, which means model, because in Mongoose we call it model. So I will go here and I will create a new folder inside the server. In this server, we will simply create new folder with the name of model. So this is the first new folder, extra folder which we are creating, model folder. And in this, I will simply tell you to please create a model for what? For the user. Let me simply name it user.js. Now, in this, what am I trying to do? I am trying to create the schema for user, this user which I will register. And for that, I want to create model of it. So I'm simply going to use Mongoose. So where my Mongoose over there is equals to require Mongoose. Like this. Done. Then finally, I want to define a schema for it. So let me simply say constant user schema is equals to new Mongoose dot schema like this. And in this schema, I'm simply going to tell it what am I actually trying to create over there. Now, in this case, I want 3 key value pairs because I'm creating a register sign up page, username, email, password. So I will simply go, the first name is username. I can simply put string here like this, which is absolutely fine, which we did in our previous example. But what if it contains more than one validations over there? I don't want it to be string. I want it to be unique as well. That for this website, there cannot be 2 usernames for 2 users which can repeat. Username has to be unique. Similarly, whenever anyone makes a sign up page or request, clicks on sign up button, there must be username. Username field cannot be empty. I want that as well. So instead of writing string directly, I can write an object over there. Why I can simply tell it what are the different things I want for this key. Number 1 is type. What is the type of this particular username? I will simply tell it string. Done. Second thing is it required? I want required to be true, which means whenever I will make a request on this particular schema, this has to be there. Username has to be there. Done. Second key that I want over here is email. In this case, again, I will simply tell it type is nothing but string in this case. So let me make string, comma, required. So required over there is true. Also, we know for each individual user, email has to be unique. So I will simply write unique over here. So unique is equals to true. So it's unique as well. And finally, we will simply go format password. So password like this, like this, like this, like this. Where I will simply tell it again, type is equals to this, and let me copy it directly and let me paste it. So what am I trying to do in this case? You can clearly see I am simply creating a schema. Have I created a model? No, it's a schema. This is the schema for my user. So I have to create a model now. So I will simply say over there, use my Mongoose over there, and please create a model. Model what? Let me give it a name, simply user. Model name is user. Then comma over here, it should be simply supporting the schema, which is my user schema. So now inside my Mongoose, I have simply created a model which is user, and then it is following the structure, which is this schema. But I have a simple question. Is this particular schema right now connected with my Express application? Is it connected with my Express application? The answer is no, of course not. This even does not exist. It exists over here. This does not even know it exists over here. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that I am going to export this collection so that I will import it here and make request to it. So I will simply go and export this module. How do we export a module? I will simply say module.export like this is equals to this. So I have created a module and also on the same time I have exported it as well. Now, since I have exported, I can simply go in the index.js. I can simply tell it where or constant over there, the user which I have exported from there, please import it here. So user is equals to require it from dot slash, and then I will simply pass my in the models slash and then user.js. So from this file, please import a model, import a collection. Now on this, I can now make changes because now it's connected to the database as well, and there's a proper model structure as well. Perfectly fine. Now I want to create new data inside the database register, inside the collection which is user. So what is the method that I'm going to use? Which type of HTTP method? Put, get, delete, or update, or post, sorry. So I will use post, very good. So app.post over there. And let me simply create a route with the name of sign up. Then comma, I will simply go and tell it once anyone makes a request on this, request comma response like this, like this, like this, like this. Done. Very good. It has properly, I have properly created the structure. But now let's understand one thing which we have already discussed, so you should be able to answer it. I have my front end page like this. In this, there's 3 input fields, one for username, another for email, another for my password. And there's a button that I will have with the text, some text over here, which is sign up or register. Now, whatever username I will type, whatever email I will type, whatever password I will type, how will it reach to my server? How will those values inside these 3 input fields will reach to the server? Quickly. How will it reach to the server? We have already discussed this. So come on, guys. How will it reach to the server? Inside, come on, guys. Inside request.body. Have we not discussed that already when we created our student project? When we implement post, very good, through body. So I know later on when I will make a request on this server, I will send them in request.body. Very good, Ayush. Very good, Irtika. In request.body. So I will simply tell it, please create a variable, let data is equals to request.body like this. And at this point of time, I'm simply going to say console.log or response.send. Sorry, what's happening? Okay. I will simply tell response, come on, response.send and send what the data you are receiving. So let me create a variable and whatever it's receiving from request.body, simply send that a response. Since I don't have front end, so what am I going to use? I'm going to use Thunder API, Thunder client. In this Thunder client, I will simply tell make a request not on this, but make a request on register. Or what was it? It was it register or sign up? It is sign up. So make a request on sign up. And on port 4000. In the body, I will pass those 3 key value pairs. Number 1 is username. The value is exposed username Adfar, since it's a string. Second thing is my email. And in this case, the email will be adfar@gmail.com. Let's suppose like this. And then finally, third one is my password. So password over here like this. And let's suppose password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Done. Now the request type that I'm making is post. And if I click on send response over there, we can clearly see it's not giving me anything in the output. Tell me why. I have sent request.body. It is properly making a request post as well, but I am not able to see the response, which means I'm not able to see the data. It's undefined right now. Tell me why. This is what we already discussed as well. So whenever we have to read anything from request.body, what is the middleware which we use? Quickly. What do? We have to parse it in JSON. We have to use .json. What does that mean? In this case, whenever we have to read our data, our server should know that we have to read data from the request.body. So we will simply tell on my app, please use what express.json like this. So once we use express.json, now if I go here and send the response, we can clearly see in few seconds. Let's wait. It should actually give me this in the response. Which we will do, Mohammed, as I said, we will create controllers, we will create validators, we will create services, we will create middlewares, we will create routes, we will create everything step by step, baby steps. There are students who don't know what these mean, right? So in that case, we will do that. Patience, right? So we can clearly see over here, I have received my data from request.body. Done. Now, since I know request.body contains the object with three key value pairs, username, email, and password. This is what I want to store in my database. This is what I want to store in my database. Now, in this case, how do we create my data? I can use two methods. I showed you few minutes back. Either I will use create method or I will simply say new, then the model name. So I will simply say let my new user that I am trying to create is equals to. I will simply tell on the user model, on this model over here, please create a new object in which I will simply pass username as is equals to. In the data, there is a username key like this. Then comma. Then in the email, please go and store data dot email like this. And finally, over the one last key, which is my password over here. And in this password, please store data dot password. So whatever you receive from your request.body, take username from that, take email from that, take password, and store it inside username, email, and password. Now, what is the next step? Whenever we store our object like this, a document inside model like this, what is the next step? We have to use save method. So I will simply tell it, now do one thing. This new user that I created, please go and save it like this. Let's see what happens now. I finally do the response. So in the response, I want you to send the response in JSON format and simply tell me user registered successfully. Right? This is what I want you to do. User registered successfully. Now, if I go in the output in the local host and let me make a send request. If I make a send request, there's a body issue. No, everything's fine. So now if I send, it says user registered successfully, which means whatever code we executed, it's properly working. This is properly working. Now, if I go to my MongoDB Compass and if I try to connect to this, local host, in this local host, we can clearly see there's a database with the name of register, and over there there's a user with username for email this and password this. Am I clear? Done. Perfectly fine. So we have registered our user, and this is, trust me, this is the logic. Although, of course, there are a lot of other things which we will eventually learn how to make sure our password is secure. We will hash and all those things. But this is like the worst design of storing a user inside database. But we are able to do that. We created what is called post request with help of which on a database using my server. When I made a request on sign up, it actually created a new user. So now if I want to store another user, I would simply say my username is Rohan, the email is rohan@gmail.com, and password over here is something like this. So now if I go make a send request, user registered successfully. If I go to my database and try to refresh my database, let me connect to this. And now if I go here to the register, you can clearly see there are two users right now. Done. Very good, simple, right? It's very simple here. Now I don't know why student count is 30. Right now, from the first 2 hours, it was only 20. Suddenly, they realized that in the last 10 minutes, I'm going to share the attendance link and they join. It does not matter to me. Okay. So, all the students who have joined now, you can leave. Please do that. Okay. So, we have understood that now what we can do is we can create n number of users with simply help of our server which we created. And that server is on this particular endpoint, on this particular API /sign up. So now if I make a post request on it, a user is created. Now we have created the user. What is the second thing that we need to do? What is the second thing that we need to do? We need to make a login page successful. Login. And now it means we have to read the data. And we have to compare it with the email and password, which I will pass in the front end. And if email is exactly what we have in database, if password is exactly what we have in database, in that case, simply say, let's say login successful. Give me that message. If it's not, then in that case, give me some error. And right now, as I said, this is worth the design that I'm doing. We have do a lot of things. When we try to store a user, what are the different things? We will not just store it like this. We will actually create XYZ things, which we will see eventually. So over here, I will simply go create one another request. So app.post. On this, I will simply go create login. So login, in this case, please request comma response. Then what is the logic? Simply, I will pass email and password again in the body. So I will simply say let my data over here is equals to request.body. We got our data. Then I will simply tell it from my database, find the, what is called based on what the email I will pass over in the request.body. do a search to the database and get me that object. Let's suppose I am trying to log in this. How can I identify this particular object uniquely, either with ID or with email? Because email is unique, right? With respect to email. So I will tell it, do a search on this database and find a document with help of an email which user is typing in the input field email in the front end. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to do one thing. Simply create a variable constant user, and simply on my user model, please find one. Find one. Which one? Exactly where the email is nothing but data.email. The email that I'm receiving from request.body. This is what I'm going to do. Yes or no? Of course, yes, that's what I'm going to do. Simply find a user from the database and tell it based on what the data.email is, get me the what is called a user. Now, after that, we can simply write, maybe if this email does not exist, let's suppose the email that I'm trying to log in with, this email does not exist inside. Maybe I have not created any account for this. So what am I going to do? If there is not any user, in that particular case, I would simply want to see response.send JSON. In this JSON, I would simply want you to give me a message. So give me a message over there like this. And in this message, I would want you to simply say, user does not exist. Please sign up like this. Please sign like this. Simple. I don't have to put this as double quotes. It will still work. So let me remove this and let me simply say message. Done. So message is equals to user does not exist. Please sign. Else go there. Now this will be only execute if user does not exist. Now whatever code I will write below this, it will execute even when user is there. When user is there. In this case, note the second thing. Check whether password is correct or not. I will simply say if my user which I have found in the database, this user's password is equals to my data dot password. If both of them are same value wise, in that particular case, give me and tell me that now you have logged in successfully because password is correct, email is correct. If this is correct, in that particular case, in the response.json, please tell me, give me a message and tell me user logged in successful. User logged in like this. Or login successful or whatever the message is. Else, in this case, I will simply go else. For this, if this is not the case, in that case, I will simply tell me, give me a message which is a wrong password, which means email exists, but the only thing that I'm passing is I'm passing a wrong password like this. So first of all, based on what the request.body is, then find its email. With the help of that email in my user model, which I have imported from the models, do a search with the help of that. If I don't have any user, give me user does not exist. If user is there, then check the password. If password is correct, tell me log in. If it's not, tell me wrong password. Am I clear? Do we have any questions? Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. So now let's go here and let's try to test it. So I will simply tell it, please do one thing, make a request on login. Post same, but let me remove username because I'm expecting only email and password, these two only. So now if I send the response, I write, we can see it says wrong password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's see why it's wrong password because I created this account. Let me see the database. So if I go here, password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then what is wrong here? So user data.password is correct. User.password is correct. The only issue that we might have is that I'm not able to find it. So let me simply say console.log user. Let me see if I'm able to find the data. So now I will simply go here. Let me send it. If I send this, I want to see the console here. So in the console, let me see whether I'm able to find it or not. So see, it gives me a lot of data, which is not what I want. If you look at this now, it gives me, I don't know what it gives me. We're not sure what this is. The reason is whenever we talk about user.find1, it is going to return a promise. And once it returns a promise, once we resolve this, in the resolve, it is going to give me the user. So we have to make sure we will implement async keyword here. And then we will simply go and implement await keyword over here. Because the operations that I am going to implement on database to find the user, do you think it is a synchronous operation or it's a blocking operation? It's an asynchronous operation. And in asynchronous operation, I don't know whether it exists there or not. So we have to await it. We have to resolve it. So since I am resolving it, now if I go here and make a request, I'm implementing async await keyword. So now if I go here, send this. So once I send it, it says user logged in. Not only that, if I go to my console here, we can clearly see our Rohan. We can see our user. So we have successfully logged in our user. So we have to implement async await over it so that it will resolve this operation. And then since it resolves it, we get our user. But what if now I will simply pass the wrong password? Or I will pass wrong email first. Rohan44 does not exist. If I send, it says user does not exist, please sign up. Now, if I go pass the correct email, but wrong password, if I click on send, it says wrong password. Although it says connection was refused by the server. Why is that? There must be some error. User.password. Now, user.password is equals to data.password. It says cannot read. In this case, it's not able to read this value. So it's reading null in this case. Why is that? So let me try to run this server again. So somehow we have made sure that if the password is incorrect, in that case, my server is crashing, which we do not want. So I'm simply going to go over. Let me implement triple equals to check, make a strict comparison. This is string, this is string. I'm passing string over here as well. Now, if I send a response, it says wrong password. Okay, it says wrong password. But if I pass the correct password over here and click send, it says user logged in. So this is a basic functionality. Trust me, when we will create the main logic, how sign up works, how login works, there has to be proper authentication, proper authorization, which we will do in our next class. So next class is going to be what you will implement in main websites. This was just to create data, read data from database. That's it, nothing else. But I gave it a shape of this. But I also am going to, before we do that, implement authentication authorization. We are going to make sure to build front end for this. Create a proper form, HTML form. And from front end, we are going to send our data in the body. And from front end, we are going to make these requests. Not like this, not using Thunder API. Because when we build a website, we won't take Thunder with us. We won't take Postman with us. We have to build a proper front end. Am I clear? Do we have everything sorted here? Give me a quick confirmation in the chat. Quick confirmation. Done? Do we have any questions, guys? Sorted? So next week, 2 classes. We will have maybe more 4 classes or 6 classes to the back end now, okay? Because the response is not that much good. So we will create 2 to 3 projects, small projects, but which will contain maximum of the topics. And let's see what we can do. But make sure that you put a comment later on once this class is done, okay? So let me share the advanced link. Postman is what we use, okay? I will definitely suggest you use Postman, not Thunder. So let me share the advanced link. Allow me a second. And also, I am going to launch an assignment, okay? So please make sure you submit that. So in the chat section, let me paste it. You are awesome. I don't know that, but I hope that these sessions help you in some way, okay? I have only 1 week, 1 day off because I'm working as well. I am studying as well. I'm doing a degree as well. So I have only Sundays off. But I still take this session all because I want to give premium content free on YouTube. But unfortunately, there's no good response that I'm seeing. But still, one e-commerce website done. Okay, done. Front end notes. Guys, if there is anyone here who have been following this batch since we started this, and if you have created any front end notes, I would request you to please share that, maybe Google Drive link or those copies, take photos of it, share to me on my WhatsApp, please. Please do that, okay? If you want to become a very good developer, make sure your basics and fundamentals are very clear. Very clear. They have to be very clear. I know that there are 5 to 6 students who just joined in the last 10 minutes to mark the attendance. From next session, we are going to share attendance stick in between any time. Maybe in the first 10 minutes, maybe in the after 30 minutes, anytime, but not in the last 10 minutes, okay? Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And as I said again, if anyone has front-end notes, please share those to me on my WhatsApp number. There are some students who are looking for the front-end notes. Okay. In the meantime, guys, who is not good with front-end, I hope you're watching the front-end videos as well whenever you get time, right? Are we doing that? You're watching front-end videos, especially JavaScript and React, especially those two. Please make sure you watch those videos, at least if not all, but to some extent watch them, because from tomorrow we are going to include front end in it. I will try to make that as easy as well, don't worry about it, but still it will be very good if you have the idea, basic idea. Okay, please, I request all of you to like this video, subscribe if you have not already, share this video with friends who are looking for it, and also do one thing, please put a comment once this class is done. Please do that. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Bye everyone, see you next week on Saturday or someday other, Wednesday maybe. Okay, let's see what we can do. Thank you so much, guys. Bye everyone, good night. Bye bye.